I can't lose fingers. I'm going to community college.
You need at least one.
Just a thumb to get there. Not a sound in the South Hills till I start setting up the equipment, and then fucking this pink face fucking albino up the hill drags out a weed eater about 5 minutes ago, stares at me, and I go, oh fuck no, and so he's on the other side of the house right now, but earlier I saw a semi truck rolling in with a fucking fucking caterpillar or whatever, a fucking it's
like
gonna
a backhoe
be loud.
or something.
Yeah,
like
backhoe and
you
shit.
sit in, and it's got the bucket and everything.
Yeah. Fucking, I can't think of the bulldozer. I was thinking bulldyke, and it was it's
ditch
not
witch. A ditch witch.
No, it's a backhoe.
Kubota.
Anyway,
do we want a brand name? Or
You're just naming brand names now, Chaille.
I didn't hit the button.
Caterpillar.
You buzzed
John
in
Deere.
too early.
John Deere.
Yeah, Caterpillar.
I love that Andy gets mad at more irrationally than even me. He's dirty looking at guy for weed whacking like he should know better. I'm about to podcast, motherfucker. You're gonna weed whack?
I'm gonna get like those fucking balloons and put up on air. It's like fucking little. We're all experiencing difficulties during this quarantine, but and I thought people, there's a whole fucking work crew up above me on the hill here, and I stagger up. It's hard to get up the hillside. There's not really a trail or anything, but I clomped up there, and I see this fucking fatty, holding a sign. I go, hey man, what gives? And he goes, he's looked at me and he goes, what do you mean? What's going on up here? And I go,
I mean that's a fair question.
Yeah. Well,
you just
sure.
Come up from the hill and go, what gives?
Well,
there really
it's like,
should be an introduction.
I know.
Some sort.
Sure.
What's your job description, sir?
I was pissed off when I got there, so I'm like, what's this all about here? Was my next thought. What's all this here about? And I go, how long do you think you're gonna be up here doing this? And he goes, and then you can tell he's the dumb guy on the crew or whatever. And he goes, anywhere from an hour to a week. So, and he goes, it all depends on if we can find the gas line. So it's like, okay, great. And then there's been all manner of rattling and fucking noise, jackhammers, and now it all quit right before this started. So I'm like on the edge that it's gonna start up again, and then. Yeah, I have a feeling by the end of this, weed eater guy's going to be right up here, and that fucking equipment's going to be going full bore, and I'll bet they find the gas line.
Well, you'll know if they find
that microphone is.
What's that?
Oh, I was saying, how good do you think that microphone is? We're not going to hear shit up the hill.
Yeah,
we barely hear you.
I know. It's like, but yeah, it's just like I'm trying to, unwind out here, smoke a bowl, and relax before going to work. It's like my commute's a mess.
Have you thought about maybe just talking to the neighbor and telling him what you do rather than just jumping down his throat or fucking water ballooning him with gasoline bombs or something?
This isn't a kind of neighborhood where you talk to neighbors. You yell at them from up above. I mean, we're all on. It's like we're all on different tiers, This guy could,
Is there like a caste system? Deer
fences. Andy's Slumdog level right now.
Yeah, everybody's got deer fences, so it's like we're all in our private prisons, But I got a gate that I can go up into their prisons a little bit, but I don't want to.
I think if there's any sort of noise in your neighborhood, we'll just call it ambiance and move on.
Oh, there's Weed Eater guy. Hey, faggot. Go ahead, asshole. Go ahead, use your poo-on Weed Eater.
I think it should be more hello neighbor, not hey faggot. I think hello neighbor is probably a better entry.
This is the guy who came down to my driveway to find out who owned the dog that was barking at the chickens and raised, it's like, I'm the chicken owner, but the dog ain't mine. And then he's like, it's like, what are you going to, what answer are you looking for, man? What if I did have the dog and the chickens,
So people do communicate.
Yeah.
You just said they just yell down from across the deer fence.
Okay. And then, one time there was a guy, I was up the hill here and I saw some free plants. There's a sign actually that said free, and then there were plants up near it.
Did you make the sign?
No.
Put it out there?
No, but I wasn't like looking like, holy shit, man, that's a hot looking roadie sitting up there. It was leggy and a ratty looking roadie, but it was free. So I backed up my car up there and I threw the roadie and a couple other things that were sitting around there near the free sign in my car.
Plants?
Right.
The free sign, it means in the yard.
Yeah, a couple of them were bulb based, but this was, and then I took a leggy roadie. It was in a pot, and then I took it, and I planted it, and then I was driving down the hill one morning, and then I came up and I saw this guy, and he was like paying a way too close attention to the blue Subaru, or like, I know it's a cool looking car, dude, but but he's just like, checking it out, and then and then he's a jogger, so then I pull in my driveway. And then I'm out there, and then this guy comes up, the guy who spotted me, and he's like, hey, man, I think you took some of my plants. Right? Like, fuck, I thinking weed or,
Did the sign say free plant or free plants?
It just said free.
Oh, that's his fault.
So it was probably an old chair with a sign that said free leaning against it. Somebody took the old chair and Andy just went up and took plants.
He said that was sitting on a toilet. Well, there was no toilet around when I went up there. There was just these plants. So I took these, and I'd already planted them. And the guy's like, and I was like, well, there it is. I go, you're free to take it. Like no harm, It's like, and then he goes, well, I'm going to go talk to my wife about it. And then I never heard from him again. But it's like, so I do know the neighbors.
Yeah, that guy's fucking crazy. Don't talk to him anymore.
Hey, there's some black-eyed Susans I wouldn't mind digging a start of.
I love that when someone confronts Andy about, hey, you took my plants, after he just took plants off of someone else's property, he thought, did I steal someone's weed? Yeah. He didn't even think about it as he's digging the hole for the fucking rhododendron. He didn't even think about the crime at his feet. He thought, did I steal weed that I didn't remember?
Well, it's like when I went to Trader Joe's. There was like a short line. I got there early and I was like, oh, wow, they're already letting people in. And I went in and did my shopping and came out. And then I saw the sign that I kind of noticed it, but I didn't read it. It's like a big sign there, and it says, and it says senior citizens and people who need assistance only. And then there was a line of, people that I would have normally flocked with, but all lined up. But it was like, hey man, I don't give a fuck. I look old, I got a mask on and I'm hunched over. I got my groceries done, and I didn't have to stand in line. But if I'd have paid attention to it beforehand, I would have known I couldn't do that, and I would have felt guilty about it, and I would have done it anyway.
When Andy says he noticed
instead of just after.
When Andy says he noticed the sign but didn't read it, that's what toddlers and people who don't know how to read do.
Well, here's what I was doing. I was sitting in my handicap parking spot right in front of the place.
Another sign you just noticed.
Smoking the bowl, listening to Steve Miller, the Joker, and then I noticed the people coming out of the store, and I was like, oh fuck, and and I went in there, and it was like I was kind of annoyed at all the people. There wasn't a lot of, there's a limited number of people, but it was like, god damn, all these old people and people, somebody brought a blind person shopping. What the fuck is this all about?
What is this, the group home happy hour? Oh fuck, it is.
Yeah, it's like a Disneyland. You want to push somebody around in a wheelchair so you can front load,
Jenny just sent me to the Family Dollar store up the road just before I got on here for an essential run. the grandkids needed a swimming pool. So I had to run up there. I probably ended up getting the COVID because while I was getting it, a lady in a mask walked by me, breathing so poorly that I wanted to she needed a ventilator probably. She was breathing so bad. I was like, you shouldn't be in the dollar store, lady. But I shouldn't be either, so fuck it.
What's the one I was reading about, Brett, this morning? Was it Dollar General?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dollar General.
Family Dollar, I think. Yeah, the same one I went in. They don't require us to wear masks because we're not in a fucking huge fucking place. You know what I mean?
Goodwill shut it down because they know there's no way the retarded people that work there are going to understand how to wash their hands. You know,
they just be wrapping old shirts around their mouths.
Yeah. There's no way to contain COVID in a Goodwill store.
The Family Dollar I was at had signs all over saying to stay 6 feet apart from everybody.
Well, those are only effective if you read them.
Well, yeah, I noticed it and I read it, so I did.
I like that Andy sees a sign and before he can even accidentally read it, his mind goes, probably nothing but bad news on that thing.
I don't even know how it's possible to see a sign and not read it.
I know.
Sometimes if the closed captioning is up on a TV show, I get pissed off because I can't help but read it and I miss the whole show.
Right. It's like when you hear, how they don't tell the president something because they want to make sure he's got plausible deniability. Andy's got that going inside of his own head. Like he sees a sign and part of his own brain says, "Don't read that, sir. We want you to be able to not know that because you'll be able to use that as the defense."
The handicap sign is color coded. It's just blue and at the front of a parking spot. You don't even need to read it.
But that's the thing is I have a handicap permit. So I park. I mean, that's like, it's been a real bummer to have a wife that's handicapped, but there's one perk. And it's that I no longer have to look for a parking spot. There's one assigned to us, and she's not with me most times. But in theory, I could be picking her up, or I could have a mental illness, or I could have arthritis.
A mental illness that requires you to park closer to the door?
It's called impatience.
Yeah,
that might be what I have. Fuck.
Once I get real angry, it just keeps, getting worse and worse. So if I park up there,
I did just scare the shit out of the people in the dollar store while I was there because we were all being good and maintaining 6 feet. But as I was walking up, I noticed the teller is talking to the lady that's at the front, and they're friends. She's all checked out, has a bag of dollar store shit, and is having a personal conversation. Then I looked over 6 feet behind her, and there's this lesbian lady just standing there all patient, waiting. So I walk all the way listening to their conversation. I stand 6 feet behind the lesbian lady, and then they change topics and start up another one. And I look at the lady. I look at the lady and I go, "Really?" And she goes, "Apparently so." And I look behind me. By this time, there's a dude 6 feet behind me. We're going down the freezer line now. And so I just yelled. I just said, "Hey, you have a line back here!" And everybody jumped. I just meant to scare the lady, and then everybody in line jumped. And
they all needed it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, before we go any further, greetings, everybody. Happy Friday. And I just want to say we're glad you're all here. We're glad you're watching. We have a big announcement to make at the end of the show today, so I'm very excited about that.
James Inman? No.
It's a big announcement.
Guest.
It's a big announcement.
All right,
we'll make it at the end. You guys are just going to have to wait until the end of the program to hear the announcement. I would write it down.
Or we can do it like 10 minutes after the end of the program. 10 minutes later, go, well, we're leading up to the big announcement, but hang on. Oh, we got to go. But if you'd like to
tune in next week.
Speaking of,
this is going to be a real announcement. I promise. It's good. It's very exciting.
Well, then I'm breaking out the glassware.
Oh boy!
There was a fucking there was like 2 people at the post office the other day. I delivered mailed some edibles to a friend out somewhere else. Well, yeah, not him.
No. Oh,
yeah.
no.
Look who's on the podcast.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Did you see James Inman was wearing that Issues with Andy shirt back in 8 years ago when it wasn't even cool?
Oh, yeah.
Ahead of his time.
That's from the Cape Fear Comedy Festival that we premiered the Unbookables, and Inman went, so it was like a really shitty spot. Like nobody was going to be at the premiere of the Unbookables because it was the opening night of a comedy festival. All the comics just wanted to hang out and get to know each other. I think they did like a long open mic or whatever. So Inman goes down there when he realizes nobody's going to go to the Unbookables movie premiere. And he goes down and he insults every comic.
Shocking.
Everybody. You want to see what real comedy looks like, you fucking amateur pieces of shit? He's like, the opposite of a Pied Piper,
An exterminator?
Yeah. He's like, he went down and it's like maybe some of them might have fumbled up there eventually, but he went down and he insulted everybody in the comedy festival. Yeah. We had like 6 or 7 people at it, and it was a fucking, it was just like the Unbookables taping experience. It was a fucking nightmare. The driver who never talked to us during the Unbookables much, I went, and because it was such a lame, there was like 6 people in the thing, and the driver and Jeff were there. And James, who, went down to bring people up, he was our carnival barker, and he ran, there was like 6 or 7 people in there. And then I just went to, I laid down on a couch that was underneath the screen and went like I was.
That's called the stage?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it was a stage or whatever, but I wasn't trying to disrespect the film. I just lost interest in it.
Wait a minute. You didn't try to disrespect the film by laying down and falling asleep during the movie on stage. Listen,
I'm with Andy on this. I've seen the film. Falling asleep during it is about the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
It's not meant as a statement. Yeah. It's not an intentional indictment of the film. It's just what happens when you watch it.
I got the one time I really enjoyed a screening of that. Somebody gave me Opana, and I snorted Opana, and it's a real serious narcotic. It's one of those like fentanyl where you don't want to do that Opana. I might be saying it wrong, but I was snorted that, and it was like
just when we got the critical information on how to do Opana safely.
Yeah. You mix it with diabetes meds and you're cool. Whatever. But we both did some Opana, and then I sat in the back. It was up in the Seattle area, so there was a lot of people there to see it, friends of Jeff and stuff. And I sat in the back, and I really liked it that time. But then I found out that you don't want to do that Opana very much. It's like a heavy duty heroin, or it's a knockout drug.
Yeah.
But when I mixed that with watching it, it was like, maybe that's why heroin is, people who hate themselves or whatever. You do heroin and you're like, it's all right.
This is better.
Yeah, it's all right. I don't have the energy to hate or whatever. But that's what So when I wasn't like, oh, fuck this film, but Inman had run off anybody to come watch it, except for, and so it was just basically crew, or it was, those two, me and Inman and about 3 or 4 other people that watched this fucking thing. And then, so I was sleeping on the couch, and then that guy fucking yelled at me, and he looked like a tweaker. He's kind of a, remember the driver of the van?
Barely,
yeah. He never said anything. He was trying to be Silent Bob, but he's like, had like, pirate teeth.
Hey, Andy, talking about him, I got some questions from the Patreon that I dug, and someone threw one in regarding the driver.
Yeah, Steve, his name was.
All right.
Yeah.
Did he get a bunch of tickets?
No, he got pulled over. Here was the thing, though. It was like he was the sketchiest looking one of us, by far. Yeah, not by far, but, he was the head of Inman.
By far.
Yeah, by far. And he drove, and he was completely sober, and
that was his job. His job was to drive. He's not a comic.
But he's the type of guy that you would think would get pulled over, and he's like, well, that guy's gone, next driver up or whatever, He's, warrants or, something, or just his, his demeanor. But he was cool and calm, and he got pulled over, I think 3 times, like twice in Texas, and then in Oklahoma.
That was the question. Why was he getting pulled over so many times?
That was part of one of my issues with the whole project, was that the reason he got pulled over so many times is because he was driving a stupid fucking green, dumb, hippie van around. Yeah. And the whole idea created by Jeff, who's making the movie, that we need to have this wacky van that everyone rides in, to show how wacky we all are.
Weren't we?
We would have never driven around in a piece of shit like that. And it was like, before there were, or at least before I understood how reality shows work, that documentary was made like a reality show. It was supposed to be a fly on the wall thing, but it was really like a reality show. Jeff set it up to be like, all right, we're going to put him in a crazy van. They had the catchphrase, get in the van. They had that ready to go before they did anything. We would have never played those gigs we played. Like, those were set up to be that. Like, they tried to, it was like they were afraid we weren't going to be good in the movie. So they wanted to make the situation be funny. Yeah. And instead, it just made it worse, in my opinion. So
I remember once there was like, hey, would you go bring your luggage back up the stairs? Like, no, fuck no,
The only way that's funny is if the real documentary is another camera guy filming the camera guy trying to trick Andy into carrying his luggage up the stairs 4 times. Now that would be good.
And then capturing Andy kicking the luggage downstairs when he's angry. Fuck you.
We should have did like Michael Jordan did with all that footage. It's like, you can tape everything, but we'll revisit it in 20 years.
We'll see.
Now because all the stuff behind the scenes and stuff, all the infighting and all the bullshit and all us talking, it's like, a camera on them, a camera on us. They were never around when the fucking really weird shit was going on.
Neither were you, Andy.
Well, I knew that's because that's because I knew how to kill the lab, and I go, ditch the cameras. It's like
But that was certainly like the best example of what you're talking about, Chaille, was that there's one of the famous clips from the show is of Rouse on stage with his, talking about what happened to him, with his face, his head all, scabbed up and, scraped. And he starts telling this story about what happened to him, which, a side note, of course he has a bit about what happened to him when he cut his face up, because he did that a lot. So he was ready with that bit. But they didn't have any footage of him doing that to himself because they weren't there when he did it, because they thought it would be funnier to drive us around at 11 o'clock in the morning in a green van. But the real funny shit happens at 3 o'clock in the morning when after party Andy is in full effect and fucking Sean Rouse is growling and biting people. I mean, that's when it's...
Yeah, there's a buddy flick. It's like that emo and Doug. I'm sorry, my emo pecked your face.
Emo.
Oh, you're talking about that Rod? The guy with
that commercial where that guy, it's like fucking that guy with the
you're
fucking
talking about an emu, not an emo.
Yeah, I thought it was emo.
Hey man, let's get some coffee.
I was like, did Emo Phillips do something with Stanhope?
That's what I thought too. It's like, oh wow.
That would be great, by the way. I think that that's fantastic.
At the Bridgetown Festival a few years ago, Henry Phillips was there, and Emo Phillips was there, and I got the two of them in a picture. It didn't turn out very well, but I was like, man, this would be a great,
the Phillips brothers.
Yeah, the fabulous Phillips brothers, Emo and Henry.
That is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Emo Phillips is still to this day one of the best stand-up comedians alive. Mm-hmm. He is so fucking funny and so good.
Yeah.
He does that show here. They don't do it in LA as much. Well, they don't do any shows now, obviously. But a couple years ago, there was a show that Provenza had a part in creating with Troy Conrad called Setlist Show, where
those are great.
You go up on stage blind, and there's a TV screen on stage, and you're standing up there, and something comes on the screen, and that's your topic. It's like this is your set list, but you're seeing it for the first time at the same time the audience is seeing it, and then you just got to riff a set. And Emo is the fucking absolute best at it. He can they can give him something, and he'll look at it for a second, and then he'll have like a one-line fucking joke. Like I don't know how. Like, it takes everybody else. They have to start talking about it and kind of get working through some shit. And maybe they can make that funny somehow and figure out how to make it into a bit. And Emo just fucking bang. I have to find some clips of
he's such
Emo doing set lists.
He's such an odd character too. Like I hung out with him. He had some like a skin cancer situation or something. He had an awkwardly placed Band-Aid. I can't remember if it was on the bridge of his nose. I think it was like it went the tip of his nose was covered with his Band-Aid, and he just went with it,
Yeah.
No awkward.
It's the Sean Rouse.
Yeah.
You're not gonna not go up.
Yeah.
And the real way is to be able to either not say anything the whole time or make it funny.
Did you ever try that? I did. I bombed on that set list shit. Did you do that?
I did it. I did it a bunch of times. I love that show.
Yeah, I just couldn't. My kid was
tricky.
There too. Yeah.
You've got to there is a mindset you have to after you've done it a couple of times, you kind of figure out a way to do it. But part of it is that what you don't want to do is just immediately start talking once you see the topic. Just take a deep breath, gather your thoughts, as soon as something comes up on the screen, people just want to be like, they want to go, and they just start talking. And then they talk themselves into an area that they can't get themselves out of, where if they would have just not said anything for 5 seconds and looked at what the topic is and gone, oh, I could say this. And then boom,
Yeah, look at Emo.
Yeah, Setlist show.
Boy, he was fucking hot back in the day.
Little Dorothy Hamill cut there. I should talk.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, he does have a Dorothy Hamill.
Hey, did he show up at Doug's anniversary comedy anniversary?
No, that was a different old school guy, right? The
who was that? I'm
guy
trying to remember
he was
his name.
from that talent show. He was on that talent show, and he had a bunch
America's Got Talent,
America's Got Talent. I think it was America's Got Talent.
Was he on the one with Ed McMahon?
Seattle guy, old school. Fuck it. He's like a one-liner guy.
Yeah,
that guy.
But he was a guy, as I recall, Doug talking about him. He was a guy that was the first person.
Slappy.
He's the first guy that Doug and the other guys heard someone do a street joke.
Right.
Like, because they were insular in that, like, they were just in Vegas doing their own thing. There weren't these guys, and he was the first road comic that kind of went out and did comedy away from, like the established places. And they're like, whoa. And he did I don't come to where you work and slap the spatula out of your. He did something like that.
I was just thinking.
And they're like, whoa!
Yeah. The first time I heard that, I was like, man, I gotta get this guy's name.
This guy's brilliant.
Hey, can I work with you, man?
I
could learn a lot about Slurpee machines and.
I thought that's what you were gonna say. His name was Slurpee Machine.
Yeah, I worked with a guy. I think me and Stanhope one time. There was just a guy on the bill named Ding Dong.
Andy, I feel like your shtick of having hilarious names for your stories, I feel like you're either running out of them or you didn't put enough work into this week. You're just like, all right, Ding Dong. It's going to be.
Well, there was, I was thinking of because of the church, we know there was Hoot Looney and his wife Ina, and then there was the Rose. I haven't mentioned. Yeah, Ina Looney was fucking batshit crazy too. She would lose her mind.
I mean, it's very on brand for Ina Looney.
She would lose her mind.
It's almost Ima Looney.
I know.
It's like that. Ina's one of those names where like you forever. It's like no, it's Ina.
Yeah.
Ina.
I thought
Irene? Is it Irene?
Ina. I remember her being really intense as a kid, but now you just call that like bipolar, or she would fucking lose her mind. I rode with them to church camp or whatever. I was in the back and Hoot driving, and Ina would lose her shit when Hoot would hit those middle reflectors. And
the cat eyes.
And then she just starts fucking yapping at him and yelling and shit. And I was like, it was an experience just riding the back.
So she's in the passenger seat, and Hoot's driving. See, now my guess is this. I'm on Ina's side here. My guess is that there has been some times when Hoot has drifted into the other lane. A few too many times. Ina's got a little fucking PTSD. Yeah, she's like fucking better get his attention.
He seemed unshakable back in the day when I was just when I was a church kid, it's like he could put up with all that shit. But when I was working for him on the green chain, he fucking changed his demeanor, man. He didn't. He didn't care.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
So listen to this bullshit. Okay, you get hired at the mill. You work 30 days. You join the union, and you wear a red hard hat, for 30 days. Once you're in the union, you get rid of the hard hat. But if you get hired as a summer employee, you have to join the union and wear the hat all fucking summer, 90 days. And I found that to be bullshit. I had a red hard hat, and it was
Let me interrupt you real quick. Was there any chance you'd make the full 90 days anyway?
I made the 90. I made it every summer. Right. But I shook.
Wait, repeatedly? Yeah. You went back at multiple summers, and they made you wear the hard hat like a newbie.
He joined the union 4 times. He was paying 4 union dues.
Yeah, I made 3 summers.
It's fair. I got to pay 4 union dues. Well, you got 4 union cards, so you got to pay 4 times. Yeah.
So, and the union never did. There was no protest to be had by the summer help or whatever, so I made my, I think it was around the time when Platoon came out or whatever, but I just started writing, like I wrote wood killer on my hat, and I started hanging doodads. After 30 days, it's like, fuck this shit. It's hot in the mill. And
so you're like Jim McMahon writing fucking Roselle on his fucking white headband at the fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah, it wasn't
protest.
I wasn't having it, and then I let other people to start writing on their helmets or what hats, and then like I worked for Hoot a few summers, and then I basically that was the A team. I felt like Hoot was day shift. Hoot was like he was a white hat, and he could I could fuck around a little bit because of the family connection with the Loonies. So
Andy, the color coding in the hats signified levels.
Yeah. Like I was like
white hats.
I was I would act like I was a hard worker when I would sniff a white hat. I didn't even necessarily need to see him. I just smelled white hat. Like, oh fuck, brass on deck or whatever, and I would start fucking hustling.
Brass on deck.
Yeah, like, but so I think I told you this one, but Tony Meyer was this guy. Tony Meyer, I didn't like. He was a fucking, I still don't like him. Tony, if you're listening, I think I blocked you on Facebook, but Tony worked across from me, and he was a fucking dullard. He's probably he was a lifetime. He wasn't a summer employee, but he was a recent graduate, and he was a lifer at the mill at the time. And Tony worked across from me, and there were 2 separate conveyor belts with the wood and shit, and I could see his thing, but I wasn't responsible for it. And Tony, he'd get high, and he was, it was like he didn't pay attention, and shit would start fucking up on his end, and I would see it, and I could go, holy shit, I could be a hero and save all this wood, or I could let all these big pieces of wood continue to slide sideways into the stacker and fuck it up. And once it starts fucking up, it's like, holy shit, if it keeps going, and then it's, well, the white hats will call it disaster. But
Does that mean you get like an hour off while they fucking fix the machine and shit?
Oh, sure, yeah. It's like, hey, it's about 15 minutes of chaos and then 2 hours of shutdown.
Norma Ray hitting the buzzer to stop the line.
Right. Well, yeah. And one time I got my finger up into that thing trying to correct something, and I'm glove and finger trapped up in there. It was before Def Leppard's tragedy, but I was like, you are trying to get my fingers out of there, and I yarded it out, and my fucking glove stayed up in there, and my fingers fucking hurt, and so I always like just let the machines do what the machines do after that.
You're totally right to do that.
Wait, you didn't say anything? There was no incident report or anything like that?
Well, no.
Somebody asked him if you tell him.
I didn't get kicked out of the union.
Yeah.
They didn't want you anyway, Andy.
I don't want to get bounced down to a green hat. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Green liberal motherfucker.
Right.
They shit beat out of you in the parking lot.
I can't lose fingers. I'm going to community college.
You need at least one.
Just a thumb to get there. So I let that shit go, and it was fucking fun to me. It was like hilarious, but it was like there was nobody I could really laugh with about it, especially Tony Meyer. But so like the wood's just stacked up.
What about the mute? Did you?
No, this was a different mill. When I worked at GP,
that's right. Yeah, that's
GP
right.
there. When I worked at GP, there was some semblance of order. There was a union. When I worked for Howard Cookie Head,
all right, I take it back. After Ding Dong, you're back on your game.
Organic. That's organic.
Well, that was my brother. My brother David knew that guy from back in the day, and he called him Cookie Head. And there was an embarrassing story about it, which I wish I'd have known when I got fired, because I could have added to the situation.
And another thing, Howard.
Yeah.
And also, wait a minute. So, you didn't know the name Cookie Head when you got fired. You only found it out later.
Yeah.
That's a shame. That is a real shame.
Yeah, I told my brother about the guy. I go, and he goes, "What's his name?" And I told him, and he goes, "Yeah, because it was the guy." He told me, every time it's in the same situation though. When I'd let wood go, it was like I was stepping on cereal working at the store.
Yeah.
But when Tony Meyer, it was just like he was a dick and he was on his chain and I was, we're both pulling our own chain, and I'm not responsible for his shit at all, right? But there was a gap between the green chain and the other parts of the mill. So I was just like Radar O'Reilly when I was just like, oh, here comes some white hats.
You could tell when the fucking helicopters full of fucking bodies were about to.
And I guess Tony had.
Before you can hear the rotor.
Yeah. What was it? What did they call them on MASH?
What choppers?
Yeah. Did they? It wasn't choppers, was it? Was it something else?
Radar said something.
Yeah.
That
dude you would always know.
That dude used to do local ads here for an RV place back in the day. Gary Berghoff.
Gary Berghoff from Ottumwa, Iowa.
And I ran into Winchester once at brunch. There you go.
One of my favorite things that I found out about Radar when I was young is one of his hands is fucked up, and they hide it in every shot that he's in.
Like this
and so you can never see it, and once you know that, you watch MASH and you'll notice they do the clipboard. Something is always hiding one of his hands.
They didn't do anything with that wart in the middle of his head, huh?
That was distraction. That was to keep you from looking at his head. They actually glued that on before the shoot.
The wart's a red herring.
Yeah, actually, that wart was also used on Ginger in Gilligan's Island.
That wart had a great agent.
Famous. I think it was UTA. Was it?
It was with 3 arts.
Oh, 3 arts. Oh, I caught him at an open mic once.
Yeah, I did. Next level shit, dude.
Yeah, Judah Friedlander refused to go on after the war.
We're like, hey, I thought you were the world champ. He's like, I still can.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. No one said he was here. I turned down another set somewhere else to come here. Shit.
The war's here?
When my dad could walk.
The war's here? Tonight?
before my dad could not walk, before God, leashed out at him or lashed out, my dad would walk. We'd do our paper route, and he had a nickname for everybody because my dad just did, it's just funny. And he'd there's the guy who had the barber shop would give us a piece of juicy fruit gum. So he was Wrigley gum Cagley or whatever. My dad just Bill's place was a fucking weird men's only bar. And it was like all the porn like as a kid you'd go in and drop the newspapers and go, oh my God, there's 30 different swank versions of swank, it's a dude's only club.
Slowly, like take your time.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God, and then it's actually a funny old school clip of this bar, but it was like a stag club they called it, and I think they just, changed a few letters that were inconvenient on what they probably did there. Anyway, we would deliver newspapers, and my dad had nicknames. But one of the people
looking at women.
Well, and it's like I didn't know, he'd just call them different things or whatever. But one of the women, there was a lady, and he called her Wart Woman. And it was obvious, So you see that cookie behind Chaille with the chips. That's not even close to the number of warts this lady had on her face. So it was like, so some of them were pretty obvious, like Wart Woman. Zacchaeus, I had to do some Bible research, and he was a wee little man or something.
Was a wee little man.
A wee little man was he. Till he got up in that sycamore tree.
Yeah. See, I feel like you learned this when you were at the quarry listening to the ladies' Christian radio station. You're learning about Zacchaeus, and it all comes together. You're like, oh,
well,
that's why Dad called him Zacchaeus.
I think ultimately it was just, I think it was I don't know if it was in the Bible or it was a song I learned at church camp.
Both of those things are probably true. Zacchaeus from the Bible, I don't remember the story, but he was a little dude, but
a little feller.
Probably a dwarf.
And the song Andy's talking about is How I Know It. It's because before I was divorced and we were raising our kids, my ex is super Christian-y. Like we were always had Bible hymns, tapes of them for the kids to listen to. And Zacchaeus was a wee little man. A wee little man was he. Was a fucking
climbed up in a sycamore tree.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a famous. Is that what it is? Yeah, it's a famous parable.
Tax collector in Jericho, mentioned in the Gospel of Luke, a descendant of Abraham.
I think Jesus defended him because I think they were fucking with him. I think they were picking on him. How about that's my guess? Is that
an example of Jesus's personal earthly mission to bring salvation to the lost? Tax collectors were despised as traitors and as being corrupt.
So, yeah. Jesus stuck up for him, but he was little.
Yeah, so that would be my dad's reference point on nicknames for people. But Wart Woman, that was just like, okay, this one, that was a gimme. It was that was so I could catch on to how this works,
Right.
The Wart Woman is level one.
You recognize a pattern.
Yeah, and then I forget the name. There's a lady that he doused with the car several times, and he nicknamed her, and it had something to do with the dousing. So
wait, the thing where he drove next to the curb and splashed?
That's what. Yeah, my dad called it dousing, and he only used that term twice. Once when he doused people in the car, and then when a cat was hunting birds, and my dad didn't like that. My dad didn't like nature. Two things my dad didn't like is the wind and cats hunting birds. Those two things outraged him, and he always got pissed off about it. So
did he ever tell you why?
Well, because my dad would try to read the newspaper every day. It would come at 3:00, and then the wind would come at 3:30, and he would sit out there in his wheelchair like a fucking boat, like a fucking boat with a sail, or whatever.
Spinnaker out, the big one, the big billowy one.
So the wind would start hitting the newspaper, and then my dad would just fucking fling it and get mad. Like, that's why I don't like the sound of crinkling, I think.
Oh, there it is.
Because my dad would start crinkling it.
To crinkling bags or anything. It drives him nuts.
It would just reminds him of his dad's anxiety every afternoon.
Same as
and then here. Right after that, the beatings came.
No, my dad. This is funny. I don't think I use this in my comedy way back. I don't think it's ever. But my dad wanted to hit the kids, but there was a certain point he wouldn't cross the stairway. He's like in a wheelchair, and but I do remember a couple of times
where bring back all of your.
I know. It's,
when you actually gave a shit.
I know. No, I'm gonna hire some nerd who watched every episode of Issues to cobble together an act.
I already got it all written down. I am your nerd.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of shit like that. But I
didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
That was actually kind of a treat. Like he was pissed off at me, and he'd go, and he would be down at the bottom of the stairs, and like I'm not coming down to get grabbed and hit.
It's funny though. It's funny though to me that your dad hates the wind. And why does he hate the wind? Because he used to try to read the newspaper outside, and it would always blow the paper over. And there's nothing worse. You're like unfolding it, and the fucking God damn it. It keeps fucking and then he's in a wheelchair, so it's like spinning him or spinning him around.
Here's another thing that really set my dad off. Like if he could have turned into the Hulk, what would have turned him into the Hulk was when I got new Levi pants, and then I would those shrink to fit, right? And I would get they didn't fit unless you shrunk them. And then my dad he did all the laundry. He was handy capable. But he didn't like doing it, and he didn't take on the household responsibilities out of interest in it. He was just put in a wheelchair because God hated him, and so he did the laundry, and he could never keep that fucking machine. Was always go off balance. Which meant the old man had to go in there and crawl upwards into the machine.
Poor guy's in a chair, and he's got to crawl up into a top-loading washer.
Because everything would get to one side, so it would go thump, thump.
Sure, he's like those little people we're talking about.
Sadly ahead of his time, because the front-loading washer is all you can get now. They don't even fucking make the top-loaders.
Yeah,
this would be his fucking time to shine.
Yeah, so the old man would have to wrestle all these clothes out to get the machine back in balance, and oh man, he hated it. And once that happened, he would just throw all the pants out, and then he'd drag them out.
So his theory was that it was the fucking Levi's pants that were throwing the fucking washer in.
Heavy when they get wet. I agree with you.
It really was.
It's a very random act.
But remember,
everything goes to the side.
Those tough skin knee pads.
Well, he also could. He's
thick,
He'd have to hoist them up. He was like Billy Barty, on a little stool throwing pants up there, and he probably couldn't get a load. He probably, I'm not criticizing the old man's laundry, but he probably couldn't make a level load if he had to.
You can't see where they're landing.
He couldn't make a level load to save his foot from diabetes, and it pissed him off, and he dragged my pants out as the culprit.
He had to chuck the clothes in like a circle. He's like, I'll throw this one in the back. This next one goes to the right a little bit. Throw this one over here.
And we lived
wet Levi's is like moving a wet rug.
Yeah.
They're heavy.
It's
remember
and it's
remember when we stayed at Ralphie May's house?
A guy who's leaning on one elbow trying to fucking huck stuff into a fucking barrel.
Remember when we stayed at Ralphie May's house, Chaille? Did we stay? Yeah, we stayed at Ralphie May's because I slept in his kid's bed. Yeah, but when we stayed there, I did laundry, and I pulled out a pair of Ralphie because he had a load in the wash.
He had to wash his pants.
I understand what my dad was up against. I tried to pull out Ralphie May's pants, and it fucking hurt my back.
It's like a clown's handkerchief. It just keeps going. Like pulling
No, you're like a circus worker trying to get the tent loaded up at the end. Like you're just cutting more and more onto your shoulder.
That's why you can't be in a hurry when you're breaking down a circus. I was just trying to yard these pants out, and they were hung up on other.
All they are is in a hurry.
And the amount.
That's why you need a lot of people.
The amount of stuff that Ralphie May kept in his pockets. I was like, holy shit, it's like 5 lighters, and I guess he couldn't find shit in his pockets. Like, it's like this bottomless pit he'd put fucking shit in. It was like, it was like this big fucking machine full of lighters and pants all wrapped up into one thing, and I was trying to like a tug of war against the man versus machine. It's like fucking old John Henry just trying to get my fucking clear the machine. He had to have a guy live in his house just to pull his pants out of the fucking washing machine. Ralphie May had to write, or he had to craft jokes to his own act. I almost said write jokes, but
yeah, I would have had to have Todd edit that. We don't lie on this podcast.
Yeah. Well, I fucked up on that Duke thing.
My God, that's
when I heard about the greatest game ever played, I combined 1992 and 2001.
Here's the best part about our fans. I hate saying that word. People that watch listeners. Thank you. Yeah, I don't want to get mishki. Nobody complained or noticed that we got the college team wrong that played in the 2001. There wasn't one, because I thought, I could put something in the comments to be like, hey, we already know that wasn't Christian Laettner's team. No one even brought it up. Yeah. And of all the things people bust your balls for, nobody there was out of the couple thousand people that watch, not one person went, hey, Christian Laettner was 10 years before fucking not one.
The resentment to the funny part of the story, and it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. But the resentment was real,
and funny's funny.
But also nobody in our group knew. Like there could have been some people who
not
even
me or
knew.
Chad, no way.
I didn't. I follow sports, and it didn't even occur to me that was.
What got me?
I just found it funny in context.
Yeah. What got me was I was watching that Jordan thing, and I was like, wait, I saw the Dream Team when they played a bunch of South American teams in Portland before they went to the thing, and I was like, wait a minute. I went to that in '93. My father-in-law took, there's some. It's like, no way could that be the same?
Was on that team.
Yeah, Laettner was in college 12 years. This doesn't make sense. But I combined 2 Duke championships and years of resentment, Well,
see, here's the thing: had you been allowed to go to that Final Four, God damn it, you'd remember who played.
Yeah, I was like, there was an annoying white guy that played.
Kathy's fault.
Yeah. And I didn't even research whether she's still alive, but we did see each other again at my mother-in-law's funeral, and we just kind of social distanced. It's like, you took my tickets, I killed your lawn. You stay over there, we'll both honor the dead.
And Andy, when were you at Ralphie May's house with Chaille and Doug? You guys, where was that? In LA or?
Nashville.
We had a sleepover with Bird Cloud, and I think Junior was there. Yeah, Junior stopped.
Yeah, we stayed at Ralphie's house like a day before he was even there, I think. And then it was him and his manager. Remember there was an incident with the tour bus
guy.
Yeah, Andy's the pants guy. I remember there was an incident with the tour bus where like at one point I was looking at the manager. I'm like, you guys are talking way too much. This seems like an insurance thing, and I don't want to be called in on this. Like there was a fire by the side of the road, and fuck that thing. I never wanted it. We should get rid of it. Let's burn it. And then all of a sudden they're telling a story of how the thing started burning on the side of the road. and then they bought us a ton of barbecue. They bought $150 worth of barbecue. And Bird Cloud was there, and it was
the 7 deadly sins. It was the 7 deadly sin barbecue. Bird Cloud, Ralphie May barbecue. Ralphie May's bulldog, his road manager, his pants.
Ralphie is gluttony.
I got into a smoke off with Ralphie
gluttony.
May.
Well, there's definitely lust.
Yeah. Fucking Bird Cloud. That's when I got introduced to him.
And
Greed.
pride.
Greed, insurance fraud, greed.
Pride. Yeah. I think you
Fried
might be
food.
right.
We got 4.
Well, I got
We can
into
make
right
up
off
the
the
rest.
We don't even
Remember,
know
I got
all
into
of
a
them.
smoke off with Ralphie. We weren't. It wasn't even like it's just like it was like Kobe and Michael Jordan playing hoops, and you're just like, oh, all of a sudden it gets real intense. It's like me and Ralphie just smoking weed back and forth. I was like, this isn't gonna stop at all. And he kept loading up bowl after bowl, telling other people's story after other people's story.
He was telling stories.
Oh, it was so great.
With Doug in the story, and
Right,
I'm like
yeah.
looking at Doug, and it's like this is not even close.
Right. Yeah. I love
But
stories
Doug
where
just listens and then tells him at the end, it's like, yeah, that didn't happen.
I love it when somebody's
It's a good
telling a
story,
story
though.
where the best stories are where you have firsthand knowledge they're full of shit right from the beginning of it, so you just listen. But we just kept
we're
smoking and
Catmandu.
smoking.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. No, you can only, that's what like a married couple will ruin each other's stories. Well, with Ralphie, you just let him go because it's like this is all fictional.
Yeah.
You can't get
Well,
mad.
you want to hear how it changed since the last time you heard it.
Yeah.
Right.
None of this is in
Punched it
historical
up.
context. Understand? Based on true stories.
Inspired by true events.
Inspired by true events. That's what Ralphie made. That's what his whole thing. I wish I had a pair of his pants so I could scam sandwich places. But when we were in
You're gonna be
Let that sit.
you're gonna be the new Jared.
Oh, that's so fucking great. Just moved into town. Want to tell you, the last place I lived,
Hey.
all these big fucking big honkers. Yep.
Hey, campus sandwiches. Let me introduce myself. I'm your best customer.
Hold the mayonnaise. Hold the mayonnaise.
Giant pants over his shoulder, asking to speak to the manager of the sandwich shop.
Yeah. I'll wait.
Ralphie May don't need a handler anymore, but what I would suggest is like a tray, like when you're flying or when you used to be able to fly and then you'd put stuff in a tray or whatever. That's what Ralphie May's laundry. You should just like put all the lighters and whatever the fuck he had.
TSA where you got to empty your pocket.
Yeah.
The tray, the fold down tray on the.
And I've never seen, I know I get squirrely and I'll have 2 or 3 lighters in my pocket, but I've never seen lighters come out of every pocket in a pair of pants. What's going on with you, man? Why were you so worried about fire being taken away all at once?
Maybe he was one of those guys that stole everybody else's bucket lighters.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
My theory is
Maybe he
Maybe
he treated lighters like bits.
well, and
Maybe his arms were short and his pants pockets were deep, and he couldn't
there you
get,
go.
Yeah.
He couldn't get all the way down to the
He
lighter.
needed the first few lighters just to fucking fill up the
Buoy
space.
up the
so
other one, yeah.
The lighter he was going to use, his lighter, he wouldn't use someone else's. He put his lighter on top of that. Now he can reach it.
Yeah, the Zippo's the first one you grab.
A lighter
Yeah.
ladder.
A lighter ladder. Oh, God damn it. I love you guys. So I know that we're reaching the 1 hour mark, and that feels like a podcast to me. So I think it's time we make our big announcement.
We can quit.
Yeah, we can quit. Yeah, you can tell that guy to fire up the weed whacker.
Well,
Probably been going the whole time. We can't even hear it, and it's a big problem for Andy. Oh, that's a nice looking yard.
Man, that's
Oh,
beautiful.
wait. I know. Look at that shit. I was trying to point it the other way though. Mr. Squishles is getting up from his nap.
Hi, Mr. Squishles. I feel the same way, dude.
I know.
Very often.
Jesus.
That's me before I fucking have coffee. Just sitting in a chair, looking around at the floor, trying to figure out what the fuck is going on.
And he's sleeping on
Maybe
that.
I should try coffee because I just do that all day long.
He's
Yeah.
sleeping on
Get
that.
up and just sit there and stare at the floor.
He's sleeping on that thing I found out at the rock place. And I'm carrying all the poison oak I got from taking a dump and
That's right.
jerking off and that shit.
Totally worth it.
Yeah, I'm done with that.
All right, so here it is, everybody. The big Issues with Andy announcement. It is my great privilege and honor to announce that we now have a Patreon. We have a Patreon page. So if you would like to be an Issues with Andy Patreon member, a patron, I think they call it a subscriber. Go to Issues with Andy on Patreon and sign up. And if you do that, you will be able to hang out with us after the show, because we're going to end the show. Thanks for watching, but we're going to keep going on Patreon. We're going to make another drink, and we'll hang out for a little while more. So thanks. We love you. If you're not going to keep going with us, we will see you again on Tuesday.
Oh, Erickson, hold on 1 second. Wasn't there another part to that as well?
Maybe. What have I forgotten? Go ahead and say it.
Audio.
Oh, yeah. That's also true.
I think that's a big part.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you, sir. Also, for all of the people who yell at us and say, why don't you put out an audio version of this podcast? And we always say, well, just don't watch. And they always say, but still you should. If that's what you want and that's what you need, and you don't need to look at our stupid faces and find out what the backgrounds are and where Andy is, which part of his yard he is violating, then you can get an audio-only version of this show if you are a Patreon subscriber. So thanks, and we'll if not, we'll see you on Tuesday. I love you guys. Later. All right, I'm gonna make a bloody.
I'm glad I didn't speak out of turn. I didn't know if that was. I think
that's good. I forgot about that too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like. My cousin listens to it and said he doesn't mind watching us and everything. He says, but he'll put it on while he's trying to do yard work or something. But it will drain his battery real fast. Being on with the video.
Yeah, so yeah,
that's why he wanted an audio version. So I told him.
There's also a way to take the link. I got to figure out how to do this because I just figured it out on a podcast that I listened to, where you can take the link from their the thing that they want you to listen to it through, and there's a URL that you can automatically put it through Apple Podcasts, which works with even when it goes into shutdown mode and stuff like that. So I got to figure out if there's a way to do that for us that's free. But yeah, that's the main thing is that if you just give them the MP3, which that's all we're going to do, we're not going to serve it. We're just going to give them the MP3, and then they just save it down to their phone. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then it'll play like playing music on iTunes.
Yep. Right on.
all that bad vibes, and nobody even feels like they pulled the whole equipment away.
Just
so
for
it was
you?
More like an hour. And then that guy didn't do the weed eating out here. He just stared at me.
Maybe they're taking a lunch, Andy.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be. It could be because
I mean, the world is still the world is still working.
Oh, I know, but this is just it just seems like just such a arbitrary time for a project on a road.
The middle of the day.
Well, this road never gets, it's like, it's just.
But look at it this way, Andy.
It's been planned for years.
This is the perfect time to work on a road.
Uh-huh.
There's less traffic.
Nobody on them.
Yeah. This is the time.
Well, we'll see on Sunday if the steam, trucks roll out and there's all kinds of fucking, it's just like the last couple times no matter which side of the house I set up on, that's where there's fucking racket. But it's just, it's like the old guy getting mad at it's like the fucking cult down there and everything, it's like, this is such a great space if there's not a bunch of noise and shit. And then it's like, then there's got to be fucking noise out here. Oh, and I had to chase off a couple of fucking urban cows out of my yard.
Hold on. Save that. I thought Erickson was going to sit there. I want to kick off the Patreon by welcoming everyone. This is the inaugural Patreon
after party.
Hey, so Erickson, here we are. Andy was just going to get into some rogue cows that were trying to steal his plants, But
all right, well then,
let's say welcome to everyone from Patreon.
Hang on a minute. We still have weird reflection on my face. All right. Yeah. So this is it. Patreon episode number 1. Cheers, fellas. And if you're here, thanks. We appreciate it.
You're welcome for all the free content.
Yeah.
And thank you for helping us out.
Luckily for you, none of us have anything better to do.
Yeah, I mean,
twice a week.
We wouldn't even do this, but it's like it takes a lot of drugs and alcohol to keep this podcast rolling. And that stuff some of it grows on bushes, but most of it
on the side of the road. Hey, Andy, you said you had to chase off some cows.
Okay, so
technically he said he had to chase off a couple of urban cows.
Urban cows.
This story could go any direction.
Yeah, it could be a fat lady neighbor.
Bovine.
But it's like, okay, so the neighbors put up this wire fence. It makes it so they can't. Yeah, they can't come over this fence. They can't come back here. Yeah, I got that one blocked off. So there's really only one way is to come up the front steps and then up the back steps. And
a classic pincer move.
Yeah, pincher or whatever. So I know. I mean, you feel like you leave the gate open because that's where people would go or whatever. But a fucking deer and its little deer came up and are fucking. I moved those plants so they wouldn't fuck with them. And then what do? They come up and fuck with them. So I found them, and in the morning they were up there still. Like like I didn't ask you to even come up here. Let alone you didn't, you moved in.
Gate open.
Yeah, exactly. For people.
Come on now.
Did you put up a sign that said no deer?
No, podcasting, no deer. So they're up there and right behind the hydrangea that I moved, and it took a lot of effort to move that. Not a lot, but it took some effort. And I moved it and planted it and put fucking food for the plant around it. And then there's fucking mama and her dickhead kid hanging out there shitting.
A cow?
Yeah, deer.
Oh, so there's no cow.
No, urban cows.
Urban cow.
A fucking deer. I mean, we don't get cows up in our neighborhood, but we have deer. And to me, it's like they stomp around and ruin shit. Oh, I found mushrooms up on the hillside when I was up there complaining about the construction. Like a whole bunch of them in moss, and they look like the right ones. Like a whole fucking bunch of them.
Oh,
so
hold on.
I forgot to mention that earlier.
You got to do that next week when we start.
I got to be, I mean, I'm going to, they're in moss, not in cow shit, but there's like a whole bunch of them. So they look like the right ones.
Yeah, a lot of them look like the right ones. Make sure, really good.
Oh yeah. I'm not going to start eating.
That's on a lot of tombstones. They look like the right ones.
Yeah. Oh, that was one of the first comedy things I did. Is I found this old tape, or somebody gave me a tape of it. It was a comedy contest in Coos Bay, and the first night I had a real good idea of what I was doing. I mean, first time on stage, Coos Bay, and it was a bunch of open micers or established comics from Portland. Not any good ones, for the most part. But I went in the first night, and it was 5 minutes, and I talked about my brothers abusing me or whatever, and it was a good flowing set. And I made it to the finals, which I had to do 15 minutes in the finals, and I didn't have any good ideas for, like I did everything I had, which was 5 minutes about my brothers throwing me down the hill or whatever. And
sticking a fork in your head.
Yeah, I didn't even do that one.
Head.
No, I could have. Well, I did have more than 5. I just didn't realize it. There was something that happened
back
where
when Andy did all his time.
We're counting on it.
Yeah, so it's like the second time I was on a stage or at a Red Lion on a platform, and I talked about, it was a story in the paper, and I didn't give people the right amount of details or whatever, and it didn't go very well. But it was a lady who it was a husband who worked at a place, and his wife and him had a dinner party for people he worked with, and they all got food poisoning, or they got poisoned by mushrooms. And several of them needed body part replacements, like a liver transplant, I think it was, And I joked about that, you know, like we were talking about that dock collapse, you know.
Wait, so once you had to do more than 5 minutes of stand up and you got through your brothers abusing you, the first thought was I should talk about that time everyone almost died and needed their livers replaced.
Yeah, it was like that'd be a tough, you know, conversation, you know. Hey, remember, you know, like, hey, I don't think you're going to get that raise or whatever it was. And then I did a Schwarzenegger impression, and it was, you know, it weren't together. I mean, I did a Schwarzenegger impression. I saw the tape and I was like, oh, I was just cringing at it. And then I did a Schwarzenegger impression.
And you brought him back?
No, it was, you know, it's like,
no,
it was
certainly not.
I ended up in third place, though.
Behind the cook. The cook did a tight 5 in front of him.
Well, it was pretty eventful.
We need 3 to make this competition official.
Andy did well enough to think, I can do stand-up comedy. And that's all it took, right?
And here we are.
Look at us now. We got a fucking banner on a wall.
And I'm still in third place. Yeah, that was a fucking it was funny too. The guy who put together, it was a fundraiser, and it was for, I think it was, you know, it was supposed to be for kidney something or whatever. So I thought I was kind of like playing into that by talking about people
it even worse.
Getting poisoned. Oh, there goes the
You're
truck.
doing that.
Sounds like lunch is over up there.
You don't have to do that, Andy. You don't have to take what the fucking charity is for.
I know.
And goof the shit out of everyone who's suffering.
Hey, yeah, I did it. And this was like, I don't know how I can't remember how I got this gig, but I was the MC for a fucking Alzheimer's situation. And my mom had Alzheimer's at the time, so I thought I'll just tell one of them stories. And some people liked it a lot, and other people hated it. You know, Andy Kendler was on that bill, and he said I was the worst host ever.
And what do you think he meant by that, Andy?
Well, I talked about, you know, I guess, you know.
Hey, best is in there.
Unpack that. What is that?
It might have been too inside for me.
Still is.
Yeah. Do you hear that hum yet?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's good.
I've been checking my.
Trying to get people to pay on the Patreon for this, and now we're fucking bombarding them with
noise. Atmospherics, man. That adds to it.
I drowned it out earlier with "Live and Let Die," which is great. Did you see that clip?
Yeah, that was
it's just like how much of a parody, you know? It's like how fucking weird can this shit get? But somebody did that to be funny. And they're fucking hilarious.
But listen, there's also handlers that not one of them said, "Hey guys, can we cut the background?" I mean, really, someone should have been there and tapped it. But everyone's so afraid to say fucking anything to anyone in that administration that they're like, "I'm not. I got my fucking earbuds in. I'm not even listening to him speak."
Yeah. So somebody's trolling there because it's, you know, it's hilarious. It's like, and the Guns N' Roses version too. It's fucking.
Dude, the biggest shame about that, I'll tell you right now, is that Jellyfish covered "Live and Let Die" fucking awesomely.
Really?
And it came out the same, like in '92 when Guns N' Roses did it for one of these fucking movies. So then they didn't fucking print it. Oh, it is. I saw it live at Cal State Fullerton at a lunchtime thing, and they played it live, just the no backing tracks or anything, and it was amazing. I'm like, I can't wait to get, and I've looked can't find it. They even stopped playing it because fucking stupid Guns N' Roses got paid a bajillion dollars.
Stupid Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. Well, Axl is cool.
I think it's actually possible that there isn't someone trolling Trump, and that person who played that song didn't play it, ironically, and also probably thought it was Kid Rock.
Yeah.
The other side of the coin. Like, no, this wasn't that.
No, you know what? I got the perfect song. I'm going to play that Kid Rock "Live or Let Die" version. That'll be fucking, because we got to get out there and live, you know, and be warrior. I think they're just stupid enough.
You're right. It could have. It's so everything is so like it doesn't matter.
And it's the most.
No one gets busted for anything now. So.
And it's the most Kid Rocky song that Guns N' Roses have. So, that could have been Kid Rock.
And the waters are so muddied at this point that it could be either one of those situations.
Yeah, before I got kicked out of the dorms, I was an older, I wasn't a freshman, but I told you that I got kicked out of the dorms and had that situation. And there was a guy, I think it was just one door down. This guy nobody liked, and I guess his room got toilet papered. I found this out later, but I'm hanging out with a friend in my room, and we hear this guy yelling fire, and it's like in a dorm, so you don't really, it's like, all right, and
you don't pay attention.
Not really, we were smoking weed, and I thought he was being ironic, so how's that guy know what we're doing, and then it's like scream, he gets more panicked, and he's a real pussy, so he really panicked a lot, and then we opened the door and there's smoke billowing out into the hallway, and so it's like we closed our door back up, and we're only on the second floor, so it wasn't like a big situation. And before we left, I put on.
Fire overtaking the building wasn't a big situation because you're on the second floor.
On the second floor.
I still had.
Hey, Andy, you know what they say in a situation like that? When there's a fire, you should yell rape.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a college dorm, so that would break up a lot of lovemaking. So I put on. I had my brother Larry's Bose 501s or 901s, these big fucking speakers. Before Larry went to prison, I bought them, and I had those. And then I played the Talking Heads "Burning Down the House," and then put it on repeat, and I just played that. And then I left, and then I put it. So it's playing everybody in the dorms, the Green Springs dorms in Ashland. Everybody from all 4 dorms are down in this area, and then eventually the mattress is out on fire, the flame burnt, smoking out on the grass and shit, and that song keeps playing over and over. I thought
they chucked the mattress out onto the courtyard where
they
dorms.
They pushed it out the window and fucking hit it with a hose down there. And but this guy's room was toilet paper in it, and he's the fucking real douchebag. He was lighting a cigar, and his room was clearly. So it was like dumb, and then he panicked, and he got kicked out too.
A community college cigar smoker in the dorm.
This was legit. This was a state college. It's changed it. I went to Southern Oregon State College, and then they changed their name, and I'm not sure what it is now. I think it may be Southern State. I don't know, but anyway,
my college changed their name too.
Yeah.
I like to think that you and the cigar guy teamed up after you both got kicked out of school.
There was another guy in that dorm.
They go wacky sitcom. A couple of guys got thrown out of college. Now they got to make it on their own. The big city.
Hey, Andy, it's a Southern Oregon University now. SOU.
SOU. Go team.
Ashland.
Are we still Roadrunners? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't have a whole lot of pride when I was there.
They didn't either. They changed the name after they kicked you out.
I realized
maybe they felt like they needed to do a complete scrub. You know what I mean?
Like, we got to start over, guys. We got to start over.
They started to realize.
Write a sitcom about these two guys moving in together. Let's just change our whole scene.
Yeah. They're going to trace this back to us for sure.
We need to wash the stink of Andrist off this university.
I realized after 3 years of college, I really wasn't a student. And, but it was like, you get addicted to the lifestyle.
Yeah.
They're the Raiders now, Andy.
Oh, yeah, we're the Red Raiders.
Yeah, and it looks like a raisin.
Wait, you remembered it as Roadrunners, but it was Red Raiders?
It was LBCC. The community college I went to was the Roadrunners.
Oh, okay.
I had a lot of Roadrunner merch because we told you that that was the big, deal where we burglarized, they called it burglary. We climbed over a wall into a locked room and stole stuff.
Yeah, that's breaking and entering.
That's
what they kind of, that's
doesn't have any of the red flags I'm looking for to call something not a burglary. So
the poetic part, all the white guys and several black guys got all ratted out by a black guy.
Huggy Bear?
Clarence ratted us all out, and I remember talking to Floyd, who was a Witherspoon, because all these guys were basketball players. It's like
Floyd Witherspoon's a boxer, isn't he?
I don't know. I was same name, Clarence. Anyway, these guys were all, they were all in on the scams and everything. We all I would take stats for the games, and I would cheat for the, I wouldn't cheat. I'd just give them rebounds and extra stats.
You were juicing the scores.
Yeah, I would grease the books or whatever. The guys. Clarence needed rebounds. Clarence is getting rebounds. But Floyd was the one who's like, Clarence is in there singing like a bitch. And that's when those white guys became alarmed that there was a break-in.
What did you break in and steal?
We had a big... Well, we all had an athletic bag. Most of us had a basketball, team jerseys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was
team paraphernalia.
Right, and I took a black belt from my karate instructor from his locker.
Was it your own school?
You have a black belt, though. You could honestly say that you have a black belt in karate.
I have a black belt in karate.
And he earned it.
My sensei kicked me in the face, and I took his black belt.
I think that's actually in a way how you get one, right? Like if you get it from the guy who kicked your ass.
You what, I grew up watching a lot of pro wrestling with my dad, and if you had the belt,
you were the champ.
I do have a black belt in karate.
Surely it works the same way in karate as wrestling.
Exactly. Yeah. From the Pacific Northwest Intercontinental Black Belt Champion of the county.
Put it this way, he hasn't come looking for it yet, huh?
No.
Fucking pussy.
No. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like everything ended poorly at that community. After the investigation and the theft, and then
changing their name.
Yeah, it was kind of like Breaking Bad, where a couple of us drove out in the middle of, away from town out and just ditched our shit. I did. And I was with them when they did their shit.
You drove out into a desolate area, and buried your clothes?
Yeah, because they were being invested, and it was just like in what was it? It was my freshman year in basketball. It was freshman basketball team. We were in Gold Beach, Oregon.
Wait, you played on the community college?
No, this is. I'm going back to same kind of crime though. In freshman basketball,
okay,
there was like the door open. We robbed the laundry room. We didn't even. We didn't
dirty clothes.
Exactly. We took, but here's the fucking weird. Here's the weird thing about it is, and because they were new, we had shitty old fucking hand-me-down shit, and this was newer, and we're like, oh, these are cool, but they were girls' jerseys, they were girls' shorts, and we raided the laundry room and took dirty girls' shorts, and none of us really appreciated it for what it was. I think we all thought we just had something cool to wear, but then, like you're a visiting team, and
they sent it to the sex crimes unit. Obviously there's a bad man.
We're gonna have to bump this up to SVU, man.
Right. So
some weirdo stealing all our girls' shorts.
Right. So I didn't even sniff them or anything, and I had a pair. Everybody had a pair.
The only guy who sniffed them.
Yeah. And one of the first guys to be investigated or asked about it was Jeff Abbey. And Jeff Abbey was the only guy who was there who didn't get kicked off the team. Like, they discontinued freshman basketball because the whole team stole women's panties or shorts, shorts.
Oh, we got the truth.
Yeah, there weren't panties. If there were panties, we'd have known to sniff them. But these were just, dirty, so they were doing their laundry, and we took them, and the whole, went missing. So they called our team, and then somebody investigated, and then they found them, and so they started calling parents and saying, "Search, your kid's got some girl shorts."
Hey, Andy, did they check? Did they call you guys first?
No, I was one of the last ones.
No, I mean, did they call the basketball team first? They didn't go to like after the fucking lacrosse team or football or something like that.
Local pedophiles.
They went missing. They went missing.
Japanese tourists coming through town.
Yeah, they never made it to the dryer.
This was a head scratcher for the Vice Squad.
Yeah.
So
we ain't seen nothing like this.
There was 2 people who didn't.
And you know that for sure. The guy who used to be Ralphie May's pants guy at the washing machine is going to be a person of interest in a crime like this. You got a washer dryer situation. You're looking for Ralphie May's pants guy. He knows something.
He knows how to move product.
He's involved. I know that he says
yardage.
I know he says he's got his life in order now, and he's not part of the scene anymore. He's not in the game. He's just trying to live an honest life. But come on, man.
Well, later in life, I ended up when I worked on the Man Show. I ended up with a pair of Jenna Jameson's panties, and I knew at that point to properly bag them up and sniff them proper. But back in middle school,
are bagging them up like
half right.
Well, now she's all religious, so I wish I still had them.
She's changed a lot in a lot of ways. That's for certain.
Oh,
she's all religious now. Her panties say, "In case of rapture, these panties will be empty."
Yeah. Well, they were. She didn't. She just left them there on the Man Show, I guess they were part of wardrobe.
Everywhere she goes, it's her fucking calling card.
Also, if you had a pair of her current panties, you might be able to negotiate some free sandwiches with them.
I would guess her panties right now smell the same as Victoria Jackson. Jenna Jameson and Victoria Jackson's panties are probably very similar in their scent.
They smell like stupid.
Yeah, it smells like they swallowed a lot of condescending cum. Yeah, we got but Jeff Abbey got investigated, and then he ratted us all out, and he gave names right on. I was like, I would have, just like Clarence did. And because Jeff Abbey ratted us all out, he got promoted to JV, and the freshman team got an article in the local paper in disgrace. We're stealing women's clothing on an away game. And then we didn't even sniff them. Like, what's wrong with us?
Yeah. Oh, Andy, in the grand scheme of things, that really isn't the most disgraceful thing. I mean, you have a long history. At the time, it seemed big.
What is it? As a team,
it is pretty hilarious to think about what the parents were thinking when it started to spread amongst them that the fucking junior varsity team stole all the girls' fucking shorts.
Dirty shorts.
What a bunch of weirdos.
Like what caper? Like what mastermind came up with I got it. This is fucking Ocean's 11. Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, I'm guessing.
No one wants
Mark.
Laundry.
They got a little dude they can put into a suitcase, and they fucking leave him inside the girls' locker room so that when they unlocked it, he could climb out and unlock the door, let everybody in.
I know whose parents weren't surprised was the Flex. Mark Fleck was one of the people who got the wood chip incident. He was wood chip checked by the principal, and
the sawdust check.
Yeah, he was part of the sawdust check. Jesus, yeah, man, I lost my. There you go. I'm fucking.
Mark Fleck.
I know. What were we talking about right before that?
The panties caper. They're not the panties.
Okay, so
the shorts.
Mark Fleck. Yeah, Mark Fleck's and me, Al Walsh, and Mark Fleck were shooting hoops, and there was a Christian youth meeting at Mark Fleck's house, but we weren't invited. It was Mark's sister, and so we were shooting hoops. You know, at some point you realize, oh, we can peek into that guest bathroom. Yeah, we're just shooting hoops.
So you were
Yeah.
you were peeping on the fucking girls.
Yeah.
Christian.
Well, it was we could have peeped on dudes
Andy,
too.
as a lawyer, I want you to just stop talking right now. I think it'd be best.
This is exactly the content.
If I can be the thing where I lean in and talk to my client.
No,
statute of limitations has passed on all of these.
Yeah, and this is the Patreon, Chaille. You know what I mean? Like, sure, we're into the
Everyone's
felony
cool
portion
here.
of the show.
Yeah. Well, when you're a kid, you can't even really think about how the opposite sex uses the toilet. But when you're in 7th grade and they can't see you for some reason, you're like looking down.
Oh, you
like,
have
so
absolutely.
And you have an insight into how disgusting sex is.
I know.
Yeah. But still, in 7th grade,
sex.
you're trying to peep on any girl's
Right.
bathroom.
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely true.
I was trying to get cleansing thoughts. So this one girl, Becky, and unfortunately, you know, I mean, she was a little, you know.
Fair enough.
Yeah, right.
You wanted to try and be normal any way you could.
And we shouldn't even been looking, but we called her Becky the Bush after that, or referred to her as Becky the Bush. She's probably just, you know, advanced for a 7th grader or whatever. But we were like, you know.
Wait, why was she advanced?
Because she had Bush. She was Becky the Bush.
Oh, the Bush. I'm sorry. Yeah.
We're just shooting hoops, and then
they peeped on her, and then she ended up having the nickname Becky the Bush for the rest of her life.
How would you explain the nickname? How do you even know? Well, fuck.
You give yourself up.
Yeah.
But so Mrs. Fleck kind of knew what she knew that we were not good kids or whatever, and she noticed the basketball stopped dribbling, and then she caught us. She caught us.
The noise in the background stopped, so I knew there was a problem.
She come out and she caught all 3 of us peeping at a fucking, you know, just taking a shit. And then, you know, it's like you can get a reputation. It's like, you know, all of a sudden you're, you know, a pervert because you're peeping Tom and, you know, sniffing out girls' shorts.
Dirty shorts.
Yeah. You guys needed a 4th stooge in the group to stand on the court, dribble the basketball, and then you guys could have just peeped.
Well, that would have been Chad Stevenson.
We had a guy,
but he could not dribble.
He got
cut.
He was terrible at basketball.
He couldn't dribble at a fucking junior high level or whatever.
He kept dribbling it off his knee, and it would go out of bounds, and then the mom would come out. What are you guys doing?
Chad Stevens lived up the hill from Mark Fleck, and he's a big uncoordinated dork, and he would come running down the hill, and he was so uncoordinated we would ditch him by the time he made it down the hill, which was just 100 yards of straight downhill, but he would overrun it or whatever. He's like one of them kids, he grew too fast. And he was the only.
He grew too fast. From when he started at the top of the hill to the bottom, he grew too big.
Well, he was the worst athlete on the freshman basketball team, and I think he also had it. But he was a girl. He had girls' shorts, but some reason he didn't get kicked off the team.
Wait,
like Jeff Abbey spared him, and everybody except Jeff Abbey apparently, or he had him, but he just ratted us all out. And then they're like, you know, finding them buried or finding them, you know, I just came out, I just went up to the closet and handed them to my mom. You know, I did not want to hear the discussion any longer. So I just fucking, here you go, man.
Mom, clean these.
We got kicked out of school for a week.
The thing is that also, let's not forget this. This means that once you guys did this, you doled out the shorts.
Yes.
So like everybody got somebody's particular short.
We all grabbed them. Yeah.
Yes, but they're not just community shorts. You got one of you got Jessica's shorts, and one of you got Chaille's. You know, like that makes it even more weird.
Well, why wouldn't they just run the load, you know? Put them in the machine, run the load, you know? So it kind of costs us.
I agree.
Yeah, they totally should have been expecting an entire boys basketball team to come in and steal them.
And I realized,
leaving them out is just neglect, really, on their part, if you think about it.
We're teaching them a lesson.
Yeah, and it was just right next to our locker. Well, we used the girls' locker room too. You go to the visiting team.
The visiting team always.
You know, they would usually tape up the tampon machine or if they didn't, somebody would buy one, and oh, somebody's got a tampon. Oh fuck, what's that for? For ramming up their asshole. So yeah, we didn't play. Freshman season was discontinued, and I was suspended.
Did you ever play a game, or was it just capers?
Well, I think I would have done really well that season. I think I was starting to,
After the lessons you learned from Michael Jordan on the court.
Yeah, Michael Jordan got cut his freshman year, and it burned in him, and I got cut. I got eliminated from the team. Got cut my freshman year, and it instilled in me that quitting's easier than it looks. It's like. It's like
there's not much consequences.
Yeah, there's no practice or no school anymore. So everybody got a 5-day vacation, but we're all sniffing the same shorts at that point. So we're like fucking hang out and shit. Let's get together and listen to the Kiss album, and then smoke some herb.
Boy, this has really devolved in that now they're like. Remember in the beginning it was like no one was sniffing or nothing, and then it's like burying things out in the desert, and now SVU unit gets.
But that's what I mean about how each guy gets a particular girl's gym short. Sure. Like so, there might be one guy who's had a particular. But he is like, maybe this girl had just found her womanhood. And, this poor kid is like, these shorts need to be buried in the fucking desert.
I did have a girlfriend that I met at a track meet, and she was in a away team, but it wasn't Gold Beach. And I was like, we hooked up and we were boyfriend, girlfriend. And I always had this, for a minute, I had this girlfriend in Sayusla, but I never saw her again. But I wish I'd have had a pair of her shorts.
Did I don't know. You guys were dating?
Yeah, we were like hooked up at a track meet. We made out, and then we were promised to get together.
Track meets were known for that because in the track meet you're just basically sitting around the inside of the track until your event comes up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of downtime and a lot of different teams. So there's a lot of everyone's just sitting around bullshitting, and it's like, oh shit! Like when your event would come up, it was a bummer. Like, I
only had one event.
I'll be back, guys. I gotta go.
Shit, the shot put guy's gonna get on this girl.
And it was always like this too. It's like, oh my god, did they just call 800 meters? Did they just call 800 meters? Did you guys
that was me. I was 800 meters.
That's what I But they would announce. They would announce it like 800 meters report to like the whatever building or whatever. And but you're not listening by that point. You don't give a shit. I gotta
run with a boner. I've been making out for the last half hour. Fuck.
Yeah. You got to put that to the side.
Use it. Your coach is like, use that energy. Use that energy.
Coach, my jockstrap doesn't fit anymore.
The coach has the girl running along the inside of the fucking track like a toy rabbit.
Oh, like for the dogs like to the chase. Rabbit on the dog track.
Yeah. That was actually what I was I ran track in 7th grade, and I was undefeated in 800 meters. That was my only event.
That was my event too, and I quit after junior high also.
Yeah, I was late. It was late in the event. You got to hang out with the sprinters, and all day. You just kind of hung out all day. And then the 800 meters, and I won every track meet in the lightweight division. I won every track meet. I was first place. I had no idea what I was doing, but when the gun ran off, I was a skittish kid, and I fucking take off.
You didn't start a race. You got scared into running.
I fucking ran.
How they put a horse into the stable before the race starts? Like, don't spook them, don't spook them, don't spook them.
Right.
The coach
They're
is just
loading
like, all right,
at Santa Anita. They're all
loading in Andy to the fucking to the blocks, and then once the gun hits, you just push them, and then it's just
So I would run like somebody was going to kick my ass or something, and I won every meet until district. I ran like that at district.
To calm him down after the race.
Yeah. They hug him. They start putting
panties up against his face.
Oats in his mouth.
The sensible race would have been to stay on my heels. That's what 2 guys did at district. And it broke my spirit. They hung back, and I was ahead the whole race by 100 meters until the last 200 meters, and then these pricks closed on me, and it just broke my spirit. I never ran again, you know.
Oh, God damn it.
I still have that third place ribbon. No, I don't. I think I got rid of that. But God damn it, yeah.
Funny.
I was great. I was like undefeated, and the coach is like, "Man, you're," And I remember Prefontaine growing up, and he grew up in my community, and I grew up with
a lot of kids running from a lot of stuff in Southern Oregon.
Yeah, I was a front runner, and when when I found out I wasn't very good, it broke my spirit, and I couldn't do it no more.
Andy won every race until there was actually someone that could compete against him.
Yeah.
The fear propelled him to the finish line until someone got close enough.
I beat both of those douchebags in the regular meets, and then what did they do? They learned from it. And they listened to their coach, who probably told them, "Look, man, your best time's way better than this guy's best times. Don't play his game. He's going to run out. He's running 400 meters." I ran a good 600 meters, really.
Just to see Andy take off on a full sprint on a long distance race, you know, that's gotta rattle you the first time you see it as an opponent. Like, oh my God, this guy, what is this guy? So that's exactly what happens. He pulls you out, and then you start chasing him, and you get all worked up and nervous. And then the second time, you're like, no way, dude. Like, I already know about what you're doing. And then you just run your regular race, and you pass him right at the end, and that's it.
Prefontaine was quoted as like, I want to see them bleed if they beat me. And I was just like, I just want to get done with this race so I can get back to the party. There's a high jump pit. I got a finger in this girl from Saisla. I want to finish this up.
Saisla? What the fuck is Saisla?
That's where his girlfriend is from.
Well, but
where is that?
It's Florence, Oregon, and for some reason their school
is
called
like Yugoslavia.
Well, it's Florence, the town. Saisla, the high school. It never made sense. That's why I could never hook up with her again. It's like, where you at? Where you at, bitch? I'm on the beach. I hooked up with a North Bend girl for the 4th of July, and then I couldn't figure out where she went. She either ditched me or I lost. So we broke up. We broke up that night. It's over.
She ditched you, and then you think you broke up after that.
It seems to be going well.
When they run away, Andy, it's pretty much over.
Wow.
Shit. Track meets were the hangout though. Like, and that was the whole reason to be on the track team, is to just to hang out. The track meets, nobody gave a shit whether you
the best sport. Yeah, you got cool. You got a warm up.
It's funny that you say by the high jump pit, because in my experience, it was the high jumpers who were like the top level track guys. They were like the coolest guys, because they could do the Fosbury flop high jump where they, jumped and did the thing over their back, and then they would land, and they would land on the thing, and they would come up like champions, like. It was such a hot shit thing to be, was the high jumper. That was the fucking prancing pony of the fucking junior high track.
70s Olympics, though.
White Stones.
It was very popular at that period of time.
You know who my hero was growing up, track-wise, in 1976? Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner. And he was on the Wheeze box, and you could order, I forget what company it was, but you could order Olympic medals. And I would ride my bike around and sing Speed Racer, and I had my Olympic Bruce Jenner medal, and Bruce Jenner on a box of Wheaties in my room, and I was like, man, I just want to be like Bruce Jenner. And now I don't have the courage to get rid of my cock.
Now you're a pussy.
Yeah.
Just
fair weather fan.
Totally. That's the 11th event in the decathlon.
Follow through, man. Follow through.
Yeah, I want to hang out with Caitlin and Bill Walton here in town sometime. But
Bill Walton's in Oregon.
Well, he comes. He was, I was going to try to because he was telling, I get up and I write, I was like, oh, this guy, I know where he stays, and he talks about smoke,
That sounds creepy.
Creepy. Exactly. I was gonna stalk Bill Walton and show up and smoke weed with him. It's like, what's he gonna do? Say no? Like, here, Bill. No, he's Bill Walton. But he comes and play. He does the cool. NCAA games. Yeah, and he's a word salad.
He's a maniac.
He's actually he's a lot like. He just fucking gets on the mic and he has a good time.
He uses psychedelic drugs and he's a deadhead and he's also one of the greatest basketball players of all time. So that's an interesting combination. Like he's not going to not be interesting. That's for fucking sure.
Well, and he was also he was right there with Bruce Jenner on my wall.
Absolutely,
Laser Mania. And I was intrigued by Bruce Jenner. I didn't even know what he did, but he was like, man, he's throwing a pole vault. He's jumping. He did. I didn't even understand the logistics of the decathlon.
Trust me, if you throw the pole vault, you will not
win. They eject you from the fucking event, dude.
You're not doing either of those events correctly.
He was mad. He was frustrated. He was frustrated at his 100-meter dash time.
So maybe that's it. It's like he's so like. Yes, it wasn't technically the javelin, but he was so angry that he threw his pole vault so far that they decided to give him the javelin record. Like he threw that pole vault.
He wasn't actually on the Wheaties. He was on the. He wasn't on the Wheaties. He was on the Wheaties box. He was Captain Crunch, actually. I don't know. Yeah, but it's like like the heroes I had as a kid.
Perfect timing. What a cutoff. All right. No, that's good. That's good. Let's guess what it is. I say Evel Knievel, Bruce Jenner, and Bill Walton. Evel Knievel will be the
first. But I say Evel Knievel for sure. That's got to be one of them. 70. Yeah.
His heroes. And maybe basketball, Bill Walton, football.
Black guys. Think black guys. Remember, you thought black guys were cool.
That's right. Full black guys. 70s football. Walter Payton was Chicago, so he wouldn't have been. No, it wouldn't have been that. It wouldn't be that.
Not on his radar.
There weren't any good. There wasn't even the Seahawks didn't even start football till 77, so that wouldn't have been. Maybe football wasn't a thing.
And he definitely had an eye on basketball because he played. Well, he stole laundry.
Yeah, he was juicing the stats.
Juicing the numbers.
By the way, that picture is the worst picture of high jump you could have ever. That's clearly the Shutterstock image of high jump image, right? Like.
Well, I needed one that was offset because I
But it looks like that's an ad for everything in the picture. You know what I mean? Like. This is an ad for a high jump ball.
Fitbit.
Right. It could be an ad for any of those things. If you sell dude.
Haircuts, sports clips, right there, dude. Dude,
Dwight Stones was a badass. Do you remember him?
I should have gone with that. I was looking for something off center.
Google Dwight Stones and see if there's. But then we'll probably get a. We might get a. Well, it won't matter. We won't have to worry about a YouTube. Claim on Patreon.
I think Fosbury was from Oregon.
The guy who invented the Fosbury flop?
Yeah.
Dick Fosbury. I just remember that from the Beastie Boys song.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Dick Fosbury.
I did. I was trying to get it in. Well, I did some volunteered for a couple of track meets when my kid was little. But they were like, it's like you can tell these the people who put together the big meets in town also do these other ones and stuff. And they had, and I didn't have any interest in pursuing it or anything, but they put me out in the hammer toss area, and that's not a good area for me. Because I lose interest.
You know that.
Yeah, I lose interest and I'm inattentive. So it's like after a little
bit. Now there's hammers flying around.
Yeah, so I just kind of after the event closed, and then I was supposed to be over in the shop when I took off. But yeah, you don't want to be in it. When I was in middle school, I think, or in high school, and they had the Special Olympics going on, they had the javelin, no shit, in the Special Olympics, and
That's Dick Fosbury.
Yeah, this guy Mike Reiner was standing out there, and a javelin went near his foot, and he was like he was a stud. You know, he was a senior when I was a freshman, and you didn't fuck with Mike Reiner, and some retard almost plugged his foot during football season.
Oh,
wait, so
hey,
well, you guys
Chaille
were working.
Put an ugly filter on.
Yeah, he did. You only see that face when the Patreon levels reach
Seat filler.
What a
550.
This is
You got
Patreon
you're right,
surprise guest. How's it going, man?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Cheers.
For some reason, when Chaille does this, on the main screen, he puts old footage of one of these episodes. Occasionally, I'll look over and I'm like, Chaille's not waving a Bible right now. Why is he's wearing different clothes?
It's like when I was on the radio in the 90s on the Top 40 station, they'd put up a picture of the person that was our target demo person that we're supposed to be playing the latest Maxi Priest song for. So, you know, like that's Chaille just looking like this is my inspiration. These like it turns out we are the demographic for this show. So
I got very, very drunk last night.
I noticed on your tweets it was like,
the last one to Horatio Sands, he's like, "Who's up?" And I said, "Just us." And then he DM'd me, and then we just fucking talked on DM. He was fucking coked out of his tit, and then I finally talked to him on the phone, and he's like, "No, you got to stay up with me, man. We got a tour, man." I'm like, I really got to go to bed. I just have one question, and I'm.
We'll do a Zoom tour. Get the Zoom van, get all coked up, and we'll just drive the Zoom van around. We'll just do a show.
We'll call it Zoom. Get it?
Okay, Zoomer.
All right,
yeah, I heard you were dropping in on open mics. On Zoom
yeah, Twyman did an open mic on Zoom with a bunch of other people who I don't think were familiar with his lack of an act. And I was the only guy in the audience.
Yeah, that's awkward, huh? When somebody's got a Facebook Live and you click on and you're the only person. Okay, you're not going to kill yourself, but how long do you wait before checking out? You know, they're giving you 15 minutes for a second person. I'm leaving.
I've never lasted 15.
Your guy's back. Please hold.
There was a black lady on my Facebook feed, a big gap tooth lady, and she would go on like a Yolanda or something. I don't know what her name was. I forget. I've lost touch with her, but she would have these 5-minute rants while driving. I just found hilarious. You know, it's like
6 for breakfast.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Now everybody's doing that. Did you see there was a white woman in glasses? I want to meet my friends and have a margarita.
No.
We're gonna start seeing a lot of those. It's like, okay, a month has passed, 2 months. Okay, let's get back together.
Yeah.
I don't need other people, really.
I prefer this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's
honestly, it's better. Everyone should just stay home and not do anything. I don't see why not. Everything would be fine. Just have the government give us money every week, like Yang wanted to do. We all have money and we just hang out. We just do this.
And when there's government gaps, we're asking you people to fill in.
Yeah, Tracy, I just got word that this just in.
Breaking news.
Just in. Breaking news. Tracy just got her check from the government.
Yes.
First one. Yeah. Yeah, it's like being in community college again. Wait, I get paid and I get to do nothing and learn nothing.
The reason that the podcast is on, I heard you guys talking when I was peeing, is because I like Chad and I were talking about, we listened to the last podcast right before this podcast. We recorded this, It's just in the background as I'm, searching and getting things set
You
up.
don't have to make up excuses, Chaille. If you like looking at us.
Earlier today,
I'm a fan of that. You should do it.
The beginning of the podcast, I did this to no one because I looked up on the screen over there and Mitchell with a mask on from 4 weeks ago was waving at me. So I waved at her during this podcast and I realized, shit, no one's waving at me. So yeah, it's even a distraction to me and I'm the one who put it up there.
This is our fourth timeline we've entered today. I want to go back to the Hoot Looney origin story, which I didn't really finish.
I think actually it goes back even farther than that. I distracted you right away when you started to tell a story about a guy named Ding Dong.
Well, yeah.
And then I was like, wait a minute, let's talk names. So we never even got to hear about Ding Dong.
Yeah, we never got the Ding Dong story.
Well, he was a black comic who had a lot of forgettable one-liner jokes who opened for me and Doug, and I think St. Louis.
Oh, Doug.
He's like, I'm your MC. My name's Ding Dong.
Sunshine, Little Rock, Doug says.
Okay, yeah.
What's the name of the comic?
All right. Well, I guess the Ding Dong story wasn't as good as I thought.
Well, we got Doug here.
Yeah, you remember Ding Dong?
There was a time we were in Little Rock playing Juanitas.
Whoa.
And Chaille came back from his daytime point guy. He checked out the club and he said, "Yeah, they have some local opener for you."
Shit!
He said, "He's never heard of you." And I don't have a big ego, but I would assume a comedian would have heard of me,
especially if you open it that night.
Yeah. Chaille says, "Yeah, he's only got one name." I go, "Oh, yeah, that's why."
Bob's your uncle.
Oh. Yeah, he's Sunshine, and all he did was like one-liner Red Fox jokes and street jokes.
We had to get out of there because a Mexican band was setting up after us. Like there was a show they booked after us, and they had a 5-foot stage with a steel barrier in front because some band played before, and then they're setting up tables and chairs in front of but there's like a chasm between. Yeah, it was fucking ridiculous.
It's gone.
I
like the way you appear and disappear, Chaille.
Yeah, that was fucking. That's you don't need drugs anymore. You just fade in and out.
We were talking earlier. At your anniversary, stand-up anniversary in Vegas at the dive bar, who was the veteran comic?
The one-liner.
Ichi guy. And it was Ed McMahon's Star Search. It wasn't All Things.
You can't ask Doug on and then figure out the answer to the question while you're asking him the question. You could at least let him figure it out once you start to ask.
What?
You just answered the question while you were asking it.
I just needed the answer. But I needed to tell Andy that it wasn't America's Got Talent. It was Star Search, which was Ed McMahon.
Yeah.
But then he also appeared on that other one. That's where I saw him.
He was on America's Got Talent. Yeah. He sweat through his suit. His suit and giant armpit stain. It was brilliant.
Uh-huh.
Very funny.
Uh-huh.
All right, bye.
Later.
I got it on in the background. I figured out how to do that.
Right on.
I feel like that's a good
sig.
It's another hour, man.
Absolutely.
A whole other hour.
Solid.
I'm drunk.
Still didn't solve anything.
I switched to vodka soda cranberry, and I'm already halfway down the first one of those after 3 Bloody Marys. So I'm gonna have to find something to do that involves being drunk for the rest of the day.
I'm a 6-pack in, guys.
Yeah.
Wow. Really?
Excellent.
This is like, this will be our origin story when we get to AA. We'll go like, it's just, I was always a drinker, but then it just kind of escalated during that COVID.
Well, we'll have to go to the meetings as a foursome.
Yeah. 4 screens. We'll just phone it in.
4 screens into the meeting.
Yeah. They're probably doing AA about like this,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Can't miss a meeting.
Wow, that would be great.
Ordered, right?
Yeah, I got some great rock bottom stories.
What are you waiting for? Your other podcast?
Oh yeah.
Tell the guy on the ditch witch up the hill. Come on.
Yeah.
All right. I love you, assholes.
All right, guys.
Hey, thanks to everyone on Patreon.
Thanks so
much for jumping in. Early adopters.
Thanks to Doug Stanhope, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.